Welcome everyone, my name is Alex Warren, and today we're going to build a basic website using the React-Bootstrap framework. In this video, we're going to start from scratch, setting up version control through GitHub, creating a starter React app, and installing the React-Bootstrap package via the Node Package Manager, with which we'll modify the starter app into our own website. If you're here for review, or just want to cover a specific topic, check out the timestamp breakdown in the description below. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, we're going to be covering version controlling first. Head to our repositories, create a new one, and we can just call this example React app. Don't need a description for now, public's fine. Have a readme for later. Now for getIgnore, there isn't a React getIgnore from this dropdown. React-Bootstrap, which is the package we'll be using, is a node package, so we can just go ahead and use the node.getIgnore so that we avoid committing any unnecessary files and folders. As far as license goes, I typically go with MIT license. It's one of the simpler ones, and it's pretty open. Let's go ahead and create. Okay, so there we are. So let us copy the URL so that we can go ahead and clone a repository, head to where we want that repository to sit. I'm going to open a git bash terminal here so we can use that to clone it. So git clone, paste the URL, and let it run. And there we go. Got what we need. So your editor of choice, I like Visual Studio Code. Go ahead and open the folder you just created so that you can edit your code here. Now as you can see, there really isn't a lot to do yet. One thing I do want to point out is that at least in Visual Studio Code, you have the source control tab on the side. It lets you see what files have been changed, and it lets you stage and commit them, sync the changes to your repository, all that kind of stuff from Visual Studio Code itself. So both coding and source control in the same application, which I think is great. But there we go. Version control is set up. So with that being done, let us create our starter React app. And that is easy to do from the React homepage, reactjs.org. So let us get started. And we're going to create a new React app, right? So let's scroll down a bit. And here we go. Now, this requires having Node. Obviously, being a node package. So if you do need to install that, you can go ahead and do that here. From my experience, it's pretty straightforward. If you do run into any trouble, there is documentation and plenty of YouTube videos that cover that. But once you have that installed, you're going to go ahead and run this command. So let's copy that back to Visual Studio and open a terminal. Okay, so here we go. Now, running that for the first time, that's going to be importing the entire node modules that are required for the React app, so that'll take a little bit of time. While we're waiting, I will say that this little warning here, not crucial, doesn't hurt anything, but if you're just annoyed by it, making the recommended modification using this instead of this and this, and a couple of files in your node modules folder. I am likely to make another video down the road covering that specific issue. In the meantime, you can also just Google this warning and look up the recommended way of editing it. It's pretty simple. Okay, let's just go ahead and navigate there, because that is where we will be running npm start to see a demo of our program. Before we do so, let us get the package in question, the React-Bootstrap package. So we're over here at reactbootstrap.github.io, at their page. I recommend taking at least a skim through this entire page just to kind of get a sense of what information is on here, including customizing Bootstrap, which I'll do in the next video. That being said, this is the command to install the framework, and as you can see, we're not just installing React-Bootstrap, but because we're doing customization, as it states in the sentence here, we're also just installing vanilla Bootstrap. Let's go ahead and copy that here, paste it over here, and that shouldn't take too long at all. There you go. With the framework installed, we can get started. Now, if you don't remember from before, npm start is how we launch a local version of our application. And before we go ahead and do that, let's go to source, since that's what we were working out of. This is where most of our editing begins. This is the page that we're going to be seeing here in just a second. Okay, and so this is your starting React application. npm start is a command that continues to run indefinitely until you terminate it. So you can make changes to your file, and as long as you save them, npm start will change and apply it for you live. So we have the React stuff, but none of the Bootstrap elements yet. So let us add something. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what even a React component is, a good reference, especially since we're using the React-Bootstrap components, is go to this website that we're already on, head to components, and here you can see a list of all the various things that are supported. Now, buttons are pretty ubiquitous, so let's start there. So let's just add a basic button to begin with. Let's just go ahead and copy this, see what it looks like. I'll replace this text here. Using React components, you can't just copy and paste, you have to define them using an import statement. So you go to the top of your file here, import whatever component you're using from React-Bootstrap and the specific component that you're referring to. Cool. Before I get into the styling, I want to cover a quick best practices topic when it comes to importing React components. So this line of styling is the preferred format for how to import React components. An alternative way to do it, which still works, is to surround that same variable with the curly brackets, and then you just import React-Bootstrap like that. The reason that this is less desired, at least from a production performance standpoint, is that if you're importing this way, what's happening behind the scenes is that this import statement is importing all of the code from React-Bootstrap first, which takes time, and then it is allocating the specific components that you reference here between the curly braces, because you can include however many you want. You can include alerts, you can include all sorts of components here, but because you're importing the entire thing first, it creates a lot of overhead, and it takes down the performance of your website. Now, going forward, if you want to save on the performance of your website, I recommend, and it is recommended by React Bootstrap as well, to just go ahead with this kind of styling. In addition, if you did want to add subsequent components, you just do it on a separate line, same kind of format. But what's nice about this is that if you decide later on, oh hey, I don't need this, or at least I'm testing something, I don't need it for temporary reason, you can just comment out that line. Whereas if you're using the original format and you have an alert like you did before, you can't comment that out as easy. It's really just a matter of like, okay, I got to delete it, and then hopefully I remember that I had it there to begin with. So for more than one reason, better to just use line by line imports. It saves you on performance and it makes debugging things easier later on. Now that that is set up, let us proceed with the styling of everything. Let's head back over to our application. Now, if you hadn't noticed from before, this is our button, which looks like a standard button. Not really anything like the styling of this Bootstrap. So why doesn't it look like it's supposed to? If you remember, I recommended reading the Getting Started section. So if you head back there, head back down to Style Sheets, you will see an important piece of information. This import, which refers to the CSS of Bootstrap, which is the appearance and styling of Bootstrap itself, needs to be imported in either your index or app.js file, which we have not done yet. So that is why we're not seeing anything. So let's go ahead and add that up here. So let's head back and see if that made a difference. Aha, yes. Get back to our code, and I can make all sorts of changes. Right, so get rid of that for now, and this can just be, I can call it button, changes to button. If I want this to be the danger variant, changes to the danger variant. Want to add more than just buttons, I can head back to the component section and I can pick all sorts of stuff. You got progress bars, you got cards, which are interesting, drop downs, nav bar, which is important, we'll be doing that later. all sorts of stuff to browse through. Now we have our React app and the ability to add React components with the Bootstrap styling. Now that's all for this video, but check out the next one where I cover customizing Bootstrap color themes and choosing a color palette for your website as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.